not only securing a roof over your head, so it's either you're renting or you're buying. You got to make a decision.
You're renting or you're buying. Why not be the one that people are renting from?
Exactly.
You're getting that equity. You're getting that cash flow every month, as you mentioned. Why not? All right, so we have another question. Buyer considering a single family home or a multi-family home. What should they do first and why should they do it first?
We can't really tell people what to do, right? Because every person is different and some have aspirations of owning 10 properties and others just want their little, slice of heaven. Their cozy home, right? They don't want to deal with tenants. So it's really a matter of preference.
Okay.
But just looking at numbers, black on white, what makes the most sense is always going to be the multi.
The multi, okay.
You buy your first home as a multi?
My first home was a multi-family property. The experience was definitely interesting, right? So it was my first time dealing with different tenants, tenant issues and all that. And I feel like that's what scares a lot of people from buying multi-family homes. And when it comes to that, I say, hey, have your processes set up, right? So if you don't want to deal with tenant calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, hire a property manager. Deal with that. But the overall picture is so much more powerful than just dealing with small issues, right? So I always say go for the multifamily, select the right tenant, find an agent that's going to get you a great tenant that, will pay you month to month, that won't have any issues. Obviously, there are situations happen, life happens, so tenants may not be able to pay at certain times, but owning that piece of property in the long term, you're going to just thank yourself.
Yeah, and everything in life comes with a risk. Like you could be walking down the street today and get hit by a car. Like everything comes with a risk, but the benefits are just incredible. By buying a multi. Yeah, I mean, I view it personally as like my retirement plan. My first home was a 2-family and we still have it, right? We moved out of it. Yeah, it pays for itself. Positive cash flow. It pays for all the repairs. We don't have to spend a single penny on it. And I know that in 25 years, it'll be paid off. We'll be collecting rents.
Okay.
That's my retirement.
So you're long term.
This is a long-term game. Real estate is a long-term game.
Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. I know that sounds so cliche, but you are going to thank yourself. And I say that because there's a lot of people who may have sold prematurely, right? So let's say they purchased a property, they had a bad experience, and say, you know what, I'm done with this, I'm selling. They sold it a couple years later. Let me check Zillow real quick. What is this worth? Right? And they see, whoa, like I could have kept this money to myself. I could have, continue to gain this equity. Yeah. Equity is the name of the game, right? So I think that the long term is definitely what you should be reaching out for, what you should be attaining at that point because it's going to pay off.
Yeah, it's not a quick get rich type of thing. Like it's a long-term thing. Like you're not only securing a roof over your head, you're always going to need the roof over your head. Right. So it's either you're renting or you're buying. You got to make a decision.
You're renting or you're buying. Why not be the one that people are renting from?
Exactly.
You're getting that equity. You're getting that cash flow every month, as you mentioned. Why not?
And then long-term, I mean, like I said, that's your retirement plan right there. And then you're leaving wealth to your children.
Yes. So another reason why I like to go for the multifamily first is that if you're a first-time buyer, you could take advantage of the low % down payment to get that multifamily versus getting the single family first and then having to do 15 to 25% right now for an investment property?
If it's a multi, 25%.
25%.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's touch on that really quickly because Fannie Mae just released something that they're going to be allowing 5% now? Okay.
Yeah.
Could we explain on that a little bit?
Yeah. So the typical program that you probably know about is FHA to buy a multifamily home. That's how I bought my first home. Probably how you buy your first home, right?
FHA for the win.
They only need, 3.5%, and you can buy up to 4 units, which is pretty amazing. 3.5%, that's all you need. It's been the most popular program.
4 units because at 5 units is when it's considered commercial.
Commercial, correct. Yeah. But then Freddie Mac just released a new program, conventional loan, 5% down on a multi.
That's
the thing
major.
is, all right, we're recording this video. What's today's date?
Today's November 3rd,
November 3rd. We're not going to have any details until November 18th, which I think is a Sunday. So we'll have details on that Monday right after. We don't know anything about it. Honestly, there's no details that have been released, but we know that it's going to be a game changer. Because with FHA, when you go to buy a multifamily home, that property needs to be in pristine condition. No peeling paint, no safety hazard.
Move-in ready.
Move-in ready. which can be very tricky.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a game changer in the sense that now you can buy a multi with a very little money down, but the property can be a fixer-upper, which is huge.
Yes, that helps. I think one thing that's been a barrier in terms of FHA, mind you, FHA is an amazing program, is the self-sufficiency test, which people don't keep in mind, right? So that has blocked a lot of people from getting these properties, especially with the appreciation that we've reached at this point versus the rental income. And conventional, we don't have to go through that. So that helps with getting the conventional loan for that multifamily. All in all, for that is that you have options to get a multifamily, to be your first property, to be your long-term property. Go get one. Why not?
Agreed.
All right, so one obstacle we already talked about with getting a pre-approval. So really quickly before we get into offering a piece of advice for you all, one thing that's helping buyers right now in this market, since there are a lot of other buyers that are scared, is like we mentioned before, less competition, right? So with that case, back in the unicorn years where interest rates were 2-3%, people were waiving inspections. People were waiving appraisals. People were going well above ask price with their offers, right? Just to get their foot through the door and get that offer accepted. In the environment that we are right now, with a lot of people kind of pumping the brakes on purchasing, there's less competition, as we mentioned, but that opens up the door to not have to waive your inspection. I'm never a fan of waiving inspections because if I'm making such a big purchase, I want to know as many details as I possibly can before I make that purchase, right? So not waiving your inspection, not waiving an appraisal, which is super risky, right? So if it's coming at appraised value, I don't want to be paying above appraised value for that property. You need to buy that property, right? The terms and conditions need to make sense for you as a buyer. So this environment right now, you're having less competition. You're going to be much more suited to make that purchase and make it sensible purchase that makes sense for you financially and realistically. Like we said, the long term, you know what's going on with the house if you're not waiving your inspection or anything like that. So what would you say in terms of this environment?
I agree 100%. Like, you have the power to negotiate in this market. Next year, if rates go down, we're going to go back to that craziness that happened in 2021, if you remember. I mean, we were going crazy. People were, submitting offers on 20 properties, right? Just to get that one offer accepted, having to waive all their rights. No inspection. They literally have 5 minutes to go look at the house and make a decision right away. That's insane. Right?
There was no offer deadline. Get your offer in as soon as you see the house, and then if it gets accepted, if not, you're on to the next. It was a madhouse.
Yeah.
A madhouse.
And you have to, offer 30, 40, 50K over the asking price. We've seen 200K over the asking price, right? So again, going back to that conversation of, this high rate environment. Yeah, maybe next year you can buy with a rate that's 1% lower, but maybe you'd have to spend an extra 30, 40, 50K for that same property, right? You can't refinance that 50K. It's still the home purchase that you agreed to get. So you can refinance a rate. You can't drop the property price a year after that. So you're locked in with that.
So I had a client that we purchased in the crazy mad times. We went above, I'm not going to say the number, but we went above asking price where it just knocked off all his competition. And this was a year ago. So the other day I reached out to him with a Zestimate. I love sending people Zestimates. And the value came in much higher than what he bought the house for, right? So he was interested in getting a full CMA. We sent him a CMA. So he gained at least $150,000 in equity within just 1 year from that crazy time.
Incredible.
Right? So in his situation, he was properly prepared. He made the move. Yes, he went above asking price, but he got his dream home in the area that he wanted to be in at a rate that he did not mind at all. And at this point, he's already gained equity in just a single year, right?
Yeah.
So if he stood on the sideline waiting, trying to find a house like now at a much higher interest rate, he's already winning at this point.
He is. And I think the estimates are saying that there's around 5 million qualified first-time home buyers waiting on the sideline right now.
5 million.
5 million.
What are y'all doing?
It's already very hard by now to get a home. There's not enough properties on the market. We know that there's a housing shortage in Massachusetts. Not going to change. So next year, it's not like there's going to be more properties on the market. It's going to be the same thing, just with a lot more buyers, looking at the same time as you.
A lot more competition. We keep saying that. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. One piece of advice that you would give to everyone.
Yeah, I have one. I would say if you're in the search, you're out there going to open houses, looking for your property, you got to know what are your must-haves and what are your nice-to-haves.
Okay.
It's basically the non-negotiables. Like, I need a 3-bedroom house because I have 2 children or 3 children. Like, that's a non-negotiable. I need a garage because I am a landscaper and I need, space to put my material.
Okay.
I want a wine fridge, right? I want a master bathroom, right? All these little extras that would make life much nicer, right? But it's not a necessity. So I think it's very important to sit down with your realtor, have your list of non-negotiables and the list of things that are nice to have, right? And especially if you're a first-time home buyer, this is your starter home. Like, it's not your dream home. You got to be reasonable. You have to be able to sacrifice. You're just trying to get in the game. You're trying to purchase a piece of investment that's going to grow in value with time. So are you really going to sacrifice that because of your nice to haves, because of your, wine fridge or whatever the heck you need?
You could always add a wine fridge after. So I like that you mentioned that, because I have some buyers that they see the house and it's like, that's the way the houses has to be, right? You can always make your changes down the line, right? DIY projects, you want to have a wine fridge, you want to have a wine room, you can do that. Gain your equity there, right? Foster appreciation. So one piece of advice that I would give to, and this is going to be for multifamily buyers. I'm super biased when it comes to multifamily. If you're buying a multifamily, I would say to make sure that you can afford that mortgage on your own. Worst case scenario, right? I don't always depend on tenants to make my mortgage payments because, like I said, life happens. You might have a tenant that's going through some things and they might not be able to make that monthly payment. Or you might have, if you're buying a 3-family, all 3 tenants may have gone through something and you can't make that monthly payment. Make sure that you can set that up for yourself to make that as worst case scenario. And then you'll be golden, right? So the ones that they are making their monthly payments, nothing but profits for you. It's good. But in the back of your mind that in the case that something happens, you're covered. So that's one piece of advice that I would give.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have this little quote in my head that I want to share with you guys. And it goes, your first home funds your dream home.
Ooh, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, your first home is not going to be your dream home. That's just unrealistic. If you're a first-time home buyer, I mean, unless if you're lucky to have rich parents, good for you. I don't have those. But your first home is a starter home, and that's how you are going to fund your dream home down the road in 5 years and 10 years. You're going to have that first property. You're going to sell it for a profit. You're going to buy a better property, which you're going to sell again and buy a better property. And always, taking advantage of the tax benefits too. Like, there's no capital gain taxes on the sale of your primary residence, as long as you use the funds to buy another primary residence. So a huge tax advantage right there.
What's one more, I'm going to bother you real quick. What's one more advantage of buying a multifamily besides the tax advantages, besides the cash flow, besides the long-term appreciation? What would you say is your top go-to reason to buy a multifamily?
Top reason to buy a multifamily home? I mean, it's all those things you just listed. Right? It's just, building your retirement plan, having a roof over your head, providing housing to others.
That's it. That's what I was
incredible.
looking for right there. Providing housing to others. So everyone needs some form of shelter, right? As we mentioned before, if you're not buying, you're renting. And the rental market right now, sad to say, is insane. I have people call me on a daily basis trying to find rentals. I can't find them anything, realistically.
Yeah.
So being one that can provide that housing for a family to make sure that they're safe, secure, they have somewhere to lay their head at night.
Yeah.
And, you're that landlord, you're the one taking care of that property. That's a great feeling.
It's a great feeling. And I know that landlords have a negative, connotation. You don't have to be that landlord. Like, try to be a great addition to your community.
Yes.
By providing adequate housing to, the people that are under your roof. So I think it's very noble.
I feel people sense that, right? So people sense when they have a great landlord. If something happens and the landlord is quick to fix it, that's a great landlord. They keep their curb appeal looking spectacular. You want to come home to, even although it's not your home, although it's not your property that you own, you rent one of the spaces, but you want to come home and feel comfortable with where you're living. So you don't have to be the slumlord. You don't have to worry about tenants not respecting you if you respect your property as you should, realistically.
Well said.
So
well said.
That's what I wanted to get out of you. The helping the community, those in the community, because like I said, there's always people looking for rent. You're not renting, you're buying, you're not buying, you're renting. So pick one of the two.
Right.
Why not make some generational wealth off of that? So before we take off, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think we talked about quite a lot today. If you're thinking about buying a home, reach out to a team of professionals. Reach out to your realtor. Reach out to a professional, loan officer who's going to look at the big picture. Don't try to do it all yourself. Like, you're not in this business. Leave it to the professionals. Like, we help people every single day get into their homes. We've seen it all. We've seen all different types of scenarios. So if you just have the thought, take the first step. The first step is connecting with a professional who's going to take it from there for you.
A professional that has your best interest in mind. That's such a cliche thing to say, but I've seen a lot of people get taken advantage of because they weren't properly prepared to make that steps. They didn't have their team set up, right? So find a trusted professional. You're great.
Thanks.
quite a few of my clients have gone through you, and you've been such a value add for them with a wealth of knowledge, and that's what you want to find. You want to find somebody that is always in your corner. Anytime you have a question that you're unsure about, you don't want to feel silly asking that questions, because you have to feel comfortable with who you're working with.
Yeah.
That's one piece of advice. Feel comfortable with who you're working with, because it'll make this process so much easier for you, so much less frustrating for you as well.
All right. See you guys on the next video.
Thank you all. There will be a next video. Tune in. Have a good one.
High five.
Ah.
That was great.